Sri Kumar Rao is the amazing MBA professor who teaches spirituality and business on Mind Valley. He's lectured at Cornell, Kellogg, London Business School, and his classes are known for bringing in spiritual traditions from all of the great teachers and religions to implant into MBA students. So 2 months ago, Sri Kumar messages me and said, Vishen, I have an idea I really want to share with you. So we schedule a time to talk, and I know every time he's going to call me up, I shouldn't be in a laptop. I need to basically go out to the nearest park, sit under a tree, and take that call. This man, he speaks wisdom from centuries. This is what he told me, and I want you to reflect on this. What he said was this: Vishen, I want you to stop saying you're going to do anything. I want you to not even I did that. What I want you to imagine is that you are a musical instrument. You are a musical instrument. And that the universe or God or whatever you want to call it is the one that is creating the music. Your job is not to force the melody. It is simply to stay in tune so the great musician can create the best melody possible. Reflect on that for a moment. Your job is not to force the melody. It is simply to stay in tune. A great musical instrument doesn't create the music. It is the artist that creates the music. The musical instrument's job is to stay polished, to stay finely tuned, to stay in its best condition. What if this was the nature of reality? What if your job was not to create the music, but to simply stay in tune so that there's a greater power that governs your life? The 7 sacred states are guidelines for how to stay in tune. And these are the states: knowingness, faith, love, silence, non-attachment, devotion, receptivity. I'm going to give you a simple way to remember this, okay? Mindful stillness, not dramatic reactions. Kind folks love stillness, not dramatic reactions. Remember that sentence. You will remember the 7 sacred states. Kind folks love stillness, not dramatic reactions. Now, where do these states come from? They come from 20 years of reading spiritual ideas, philosophy, training with great mentors. I've maybe trained with over 50 legendary teachers, from Ken Wilber to Barbara Marx Hubbard, and noticing patterns in what they were saying, noticing repeated themes. And I wanted to put it in a structure that anyone can step into. When you step into this structure, this is what happens. You stop chasing goals. You no longer chase, you attract. You're confident because you no longer seek to be, you simply are. You are in absolute alignment with your truth, and people feel it. And you no longer wake up feeling miserable or anxious or worried. You have faith that your day is going to unfold exactly the way it needs to. The funny side effect of this is that by not chasing, your goals come to you faster than ever. And it has to do with these 7 ideas. What I'm going to do is share a simple story for every idea, and then give you the seed of the idea so you can practice it. You're going to spend Mondays just thinking about knowingness, if you choose. Tuesdays are going to be about faith. Wednesdays, love. Thursdays, silence. Fridays, non-attachment. Saturday, devotion. And Sunday, which is your free day at Mind Valley University, receptivity. But let's start with the first one, knowingness. Remember, the universe doesn't give you what you want. It reflects back to you who you are. So there's a story about Julius Caesar. Okay, so Julius Caesar, when he was 25 years old, he is still on a ship. And what happens is the ship gets captured by pirates. Sorry guys, there seems to be a bug with the slide. Could you just check into that? AVT? So Julius Caesar's on a ship. The ship gets raided by pirates and Julius is kidnapped. He's 25 years old, not even like a full-grown man yet, but Julius knew who he was. He had that knowingness. So the pilots hold him ransom, and the pirates say, "We will release you for 35 talents of silver." And Julius says, "No, no, I am not worth 35 talents of silver." So a talent is a big bag of silver. "I'm worth 50. Ask for 50." So the pirates ask for 50. And now it takes 38 days for the ships to come to rescue Julius. This is what he does. He tells the pirates, "Listen, I'm a great orator and a statesman. I need to practice, so I need you guys to stay awake and listen to my speeches." And he would speak to them, forcing them to listen. He would drive them nuts because if they were making loud sounds and he couldn't sleep, he would yell at them, "Hey, I'm Julius Caesar. I need my sleep. Shut up." He also told them, "By the way, when the 50 talents of silver comes, you're going to free me. I'm going to go back, find my army, come back, and I'm going to kill all of you. And I always keep my word." They laughed. Anyway, the ships come, 50 talents of silver. Julius is released. He goes back, rallies his army, comes back, crucifies each of the pirates, and then slices their throat just like he promised. That is knowingness. From a very young age, Julius Caesar knew exactly who he was. We see the same idea in so many stories of incredible people. David and Goliath. So, in biblical times, epic battle, and what happens is the Israelites are facing Goliath, and the soldiers are scared. This man is huge. He's the enemy. How could they possibly defeat him? David shows up. Skinny guy, he's like the Uber delivery guy of the day. And he shows up, but David knows what his skill is, the slingshot. Everyone else fears Goliath. How will we defeat him? David looks at him and thinks, he is so big. How could I possibly miss? David knew who he was. Do you know who you are? Can you stand for what you are? Knowingness is the idea that there are certain unshakable values, truths, knowing that you just embrace. Nothing or no one can shake them from you. So you hear a lot about gratitude, knowingness. You know, care of the body, and knowing that truth, how show up in the world. Now, knowingness is a powerful practice when you really live it. I want to share with you a story. So when I started my company, I brought in a co-founder. We went to school together, and he was the really number one I did not know that I was a business, and I brought I gave him 30 of the company. Now, somewhere time along the line, he requested a higher percentage, and we did a handshake agreement. His percentage would go to 45%. We did a handshake agreement. Nothing was signed though. On paper, he owned 30%. I made a mistake. 7 years later, this man, who was the co-founder, was making my life miserable. He couldn't understand why I was the guy getting the attention on stage. I was the guy who was coming up with the ideas, and he tried to trick me and force me out of my own company. And I was furious. So I went to him and I said, "I'm buying your shares." He says, "Good luck, it's going to cost you millions." And I said, "Whatever it is, I'm going to free myself of you so Mind Valley can be free." And then he said this, "Well, I own 45% of the company." But he didn't. On paper, it was only 30%. The difference between that 30% and 45% was $1 million. And he said, "Oh, no, you don't, Vision. You're not going to honor our handshake agreement." And as despicable as this man was, I know myself. I paid him an extra $1 million to honor handshake, even though he tried to stab me behind the back. He didn't deserve it, and he didn't have a contract. But I did that because I know who I am. I do not want to be a person who does not honor a handshake agreement. So that handshake cost me $1 million. Now, why did I do that? One of the teachers I've learned from was Harbecker. He wrote a book called The book was called Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. And there was this interesting rule in the book. My word is law. And what it means is if you give your word, you freaking do it. If you can live like that, the universe rewards you. Because if you say, I'm going to take this business to that level, I'm going to deliver that, you do it. I paid $1 million, not to him. I paid $1 million to the universe to show the universe that I honor my own word. That is knowingness. Knowingness is not belief, it's not hope, it's not faith. It is the unshakable inner conviction that it is already done, that you already are, that this is who I am. And so I want to give you a simple journal prompt. Every time you see this slide with a leather-bound journal, I want you to open up your phone or your journal if you have one. And I want you to think unshakable truths I carry about who I am and who I am becoming. What are those pillars that you can hold on to that define you? As I said, knowingness goes beyond gratitude. Gratitude is, so I'm so happy for this to have happened in my life. Knowingness is, I'm a good dad. I'm a good parent. I know that. And that belief makes you good. Knowingness are your unshakable truths. That no one can rattle you. No one can poke you. No one can hear you suck because you simply know. But the key thing is, once you have this first, you build upon it. Close your eyes and think for a moment. What are the unshakable things I truly know about myself? Bruce Lee said, the greatest enemy is the face in the mirror. He went on to explain, it is the scaffolding, the ideas, the beliefs, the identities we took on from other people. What can you shed so you come back to your truth, to what you know to be true? Not what the media told you or some other people told you, not guilt that someone else implanted on you. What do you know to be true? When Bruce Lee said, the art of learning is about absorbing what is useful, discarding what is not, and adding your own unique style. Your own unique style, that is your knowingness. And for each of us, that own unique style is different. As you study every speech here, learn from every author, don't just take down what they say, critique it, and add your own unique style. Absorb what is useful, discard what is not. Add your own unique style. So go back to your journal. What are the unshakable truths you carry about who you are and who you are becoming? I want you to write one more truth down. So you're going to dedicate Mondays to knowingness. Every Monday at Mind Valley U, there are 2 Mondays. One of the things you can do, for example, is dress as the person you know you're going to step into. Speak your truth. Share your ideas with confidence. As you meet people, introduce yourself, not in a small way like we're so used to doing with humility, but introduce yourself the way Julius Caesar might. In fact, let's do that now. Introduce yourself as who you know you are to someone around you. Go ahead. Now slowly bring your attention back to the front. Slowly bring your attention back to the front. And I hope you step into your knowingness. Now I need everyone to go silent. Now, 1, 2, 3, silence. We come back to the front. And you'll get more time to connect with the wonderful people you met. But now we must go to the second state, which is faith. So knowingness, as we mentioned, is the first state. And what is the phrase to remember them? Kind folks love stillness, not dramatic reactions. Okay, so the second state starts with an F, and that is faith. Faith is a really interesting idea. It is the root of so many religious traditions. And faith is a really powerful thing. Faith is actually the opposite of knowingness. Knowingness is what you know you are. Sometimes you just know you're going to accomplish something. Faith is you leave space for randomness. You leave space for the universe to maybe show you something that you're not prepared for. You leave space for openness. Faith is a really powerful idea, and I want to share a lesson about faith that I learned from Marissa Peer. Is Marissa in the room? Marissa, are you here? She was here earlier. Well, Marissa Peer, the amazing hypnotherapist, she will be teaching at Mind Valley U. And she's around, so any Marissa Peer fans, you will meet Marissa. Way back in 2015, I went to San Diego to meet her and was scheduled to film a program together. But when I get to the hotel lobby, John is in tears, and I asked him, John, what happened? And he said, he has cancer. And so now John is crying. Now I have tears running down my eyes. So we cancel the Airbnb. We send through home. Marissa comes down, and the thing I want to do is her and she's happy. And she's joyous. And I ask her, Marissa, I'm so sorry to hear John just told me. And she goes, oh, don't worry, honey. I'll heal it in a... And she heals it. She heals herself of cancer. That was 2015. Now, 2023, in January, something else happens to Marissa. So she's a woman in her 60s. She's living in Notting Hill. And she's shopping in Notting Hill, London. And a car hits her, runs over her leg, and drives off. A hit and run. She breaks her leg in 14 different places. So she goes to the doctor. And she says, how long before I can walk again? The doctor says 6 months. And the doctor says, and by the way, that's 6 months with a lot of physiotherapy. You probably will have a limp, and you will never be able to wear heels again. That's what the doctor says. But Marissa, the woman who's healed herself of cancer multiple times, knows she has faith in her body. She says, oh, don't worry, I'll be walking in 6 weeks. I went to visit Marissa and stay with her and John 6 weeks after that accident. She was walking. She still needed a crutch, but she could go downstairs. She could walk. And by the way, you will see Marissa Peer in heels at this event. That is faith. Faith is it's a knowing, it's a trust, whether it's a trust in healing or a trust that the person you're meant to meet, you will meet, or a trust that your business is going to sort itself out. Rumi has a quote. As I start walking on the way reveals itself. So many entrepreneurs I meet hesitate to take the first steps because they don't know if the first step is right. Rumi says, as you walk along the way will reveal itself. That is faith. Faith is you do your part, not from desperation, but from alignment. You set the intention, you take the step, but then you release the outcome, knowing that if it's meant for you, it cannot miss you. And if it misses you, it was never meant for you in the first place. Faith is that depth of trust. You see faith in all the great religious traditions. I was just giving this lecture in Egypt, and I quoted the Quran, Surah Al-Insan 76:30. And what it says is, basically, you act, but you know that if it's meant for you, it will be in Allah's will. That is fate. But you act anyway. You do your best. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Rao explains it this way. $1 billion company, maybe you do, doesn't matter. Maybe you don't, doesn't matter. The question is, did you do your best? And what did you learn along the way? When you live like that, you can never fail. So the journal prompt is this. Where am I still demanding proof before I trust the process? What do you not trust about your life? Is it that that special someone is going to come? Is it that you can scale your business to its first million? Where? If you have faith. Also, you can ask yourself, am I okay if what I think should happen doesn't happen? Because I know that if it's meant for me, it will not miss me. And if it misses me, it was never meant for me. Close your eyes or journal and write that down. You will dedicate Tuesdays to faith. Here's an example how. When you wake up on Tuesday morning, set an intention. Maybe attend a session on a subject you typically don't care about, just on faith, to see what happens. Start up a conversation with a random stranger. There are so many very interesting people over here. There are lots of people who will just randomly come up to you and read your aura without permission. Just have faith that the right person will come up to you. So set an intention for magic to happen. Mondays, okay, knowingness. Declare what you want. Declare how you're going to show up. I'm going to show up with confidence. I'm going to meet 10 people today. I'm going to invite 10 people to dinner. That's knowingness. Faith is, I'm going to be open to whatever magic happens. I'm going to walk into the first session, even if I don't know what's happening. I'm going to go talk to this random person. Someone invites you to dinner, maybe an ecstatic dance, whatever. Just say yes, even if they are a little weird. Faith. Now, this brings us to love. Kind folks love stillness, not dramatic reactions. Love is the third state. That's what we will practice on Wednesday. Love is one of the most powerful natural states we can be in. But we live in a world that lies to us by making us believe that love has to come from an outside source. I think the greatest example of love I've ever read about was Nelson Mandela. This man was jailed for 27 years. They tried to break him. It was cruel. It was punishment. All he wanted was for his country to be free. He was a good man. But after 27 years of being imprisoned, imagine being torn away from your partner, from your children. When Mandela was finally released, this is what he said. He said, as I walked out the door towards the gate that would lead to my freedom, I knew if I didn't leave my bitterness and hatred behind, I'd still be in prison. He then organized a dinner and invited his jailers to come and break bread with him. That is love. Love is the idea that you do not need anyone to give you love. You initiate that. You forgive first. You are the one who demonstrates the patience. because you understand that you can channel love, that you can generate love from within or love from a higher power. You do not need a certain someone to give you love. The best people are the ones who can generate and give love. They're more forgiving, they're more accepting, they're less needy, they're more attractive to be around, they make better partners. How can you generate love from within so you don't need to crave it or display neediness to pull it from someone else? How can you practice that on Wednesday? Compliment or appreciate 10 people you meet. So Wednesday is Appreciation Day. Not just on something, like you can compliment their outfit, sure, but maybe get to know people and compliment them, their soul, what you recognized. Wednesday is where I want you all to show up with love. And by the way, I'm not talking about just this Wednesday or next Wednesday. I'm talking about all Wednesdays. I'm teaching a class on Mind Valley now called Manifesting Mastery, and we turn people into master manifestors. This is the first exercise we give them. Because when you embody this state, these 7 states, you become the instrument. The universe plays the music through you, and your life unfolds in the most spectacular way. We can see this really crystal clear when it comes to love. Because if you're demanding love from someone else, or hoping that that right person walks into your life so you can finally feel good, you delay that happening. Can you generate love from within? Ask yourself this: who or what am I still withholding love from, including myself? Forgive the other person, yes, but are you also forgiving yourself from your past mistakes? I want you to close your eyes and reflect on that prompt, or write it down on your journal. Just 3 days ago, I gave this talk in Egypt near Alexandria, and a Palestinian gentleman came up to me. And this guy was this hugely successful entrepreneur. He built a company, then he put a CEO in charge, and the CEO went against the values of the company and jacked up the prices and started, lowering the quality of service. And this Palestinian entrepreneur was so frustrated and angry with the CEO. And after listening to this talk, we sat down for dinner, and he said, I decided I'm just going to forgive him. It's fine. I'm just good. Just going to forgive him. Because carrying that anger wasn't serving me. Who or what are you still withholding love from, including yourself? The most powerful people in the world are not the ones with the greatest influence on money, are the ones who do not crave love because they are connected deeply to a higher power and can generate that love from within. And all of you can step into that instantly once you understand this idea. Because everything we do, money, power, it's all for love. Now, this brings us to silence. Silence is state number 4. Kind folks love stillness. S, silence. So here I want to share a story, again, from one of my mentors, Professor Rao. It was 2011 or 2012, and Rao was in New York. I was in Malaysia. We had a call about him coming on as a Mind Valley author, and the call was scheduled for 11 p.m. my time. I had this crazy busy day, and now I had to take a call at 11 p.m. when all I wanted to do was just crawl into bed and sleep. So I want to make the call really tight, really straight to the point. As I get in the call, Rao hears the stress in my voice, and he goes, "Vishen, you're under stress, aren't you?" And I go, "Yes." And he goes, "May I read you a poem?" And I'm furious. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, all I want to do is end this call. We have to decide, these ideas in the contract. So I said, is it a long poem? And he goes, just listen. So I listen. And he says, this poem is from Rumi. I'd heard of Rumi, but I wasn't really into Rumi. And the poem was this: when I run after what I think I want, my life is a furnace of distress and anxiety. If I sit in my own place of patience, what I want flows to me without pain. This I understand that what I want also wants me, is looking for me and attracting me. There's a great secret in this for anyone who can grasp it. This poem is beautiful. You can interpret it in so many different ways. And what I want to do is I want to invite someone here to interpret that poem. You're going to come on stage. And you must actually be someone who has thought about this. I don't want any random artist. Okay, so who here can come up on stage with me and explain this poem? The person right at the back raising his hand. Come on. And I'm going to give you a mic. I think I recognize you. Are you Bruce? Rasmus, yeah. I remember your name from last year. Nice to see you again, Rasmus. All right, Rasmus. Go.
So, when I love myself fully and I was ready to meet the love of my life, I was sitting in my apartment in Copenhagen and I imagined 3 things she has to be. And 1 month after, she showed up. And she came to me with the same vision and the same love and the same appreciation to be with the one she loves. And we met like that. So we're both ready and we both imagined that in our hearts. And we did many great things together. Now we have a castle in Tuscany and 2 kids. And
you have a little castle in Tuscany?
Yeah.
Rasmus is a good guy to know. Russ, tell us about that poem. Explain it to the audience. What is the deep meaning here behind this Rumi poem that you believe people should really understand?
I think if you have a desire, it's yourself that have that desire. But if you step above the desire and just become joyful and become peaceful and become full of love, I think your kind of energy expands, and it's so great. It connects with others, and I think when other people also expand beyond their own selfishness, their desire and needs and anger and paranoia, I think that's where we get unity. So if you just build yourself up, create that energy you have inside, follow your passion, your purpose, and just follow love and light, you expand, and that's where we all connect. So
thank you, Rasmus. Give him a round of applause. So, Ras, when is the reunion party at your castle? Tuscany, you say, right? What I believe Rumi is trying to say here is an idea that has been repeated in so many great works. You will also recognize this in Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. What I want, the universe wants too. The idea here is, what if we are the universe experiencing itself? And therefore, all I want, in the words of Paulo Coelho, your wants originate within the soul of the universe. And if your wants are originating within the soul of the universe, then why wouldn't the universe give you what it wants? This is what I believe Rumi was saying by, from this I understand what I want also wants me, is looking for me and attracting me. There's a great secret in this. But the first line says, when I run after what I think I want, think, meaning what you think you want. And what you think you want is the influence of advertising, media, politicians, societies, Asian parents. My days are a furnace of distress and anxiety. But if I sit in my own place of patience, what I need flows to me without pain. What he's talking about here is the idea that sometimes the greatest insights come from stillness. I was on Tom Bilyeu's show, Impact Theory. So Tom Bilyeu is an entrepreneur. He's built $1 billion company. We spoke about meditation, and Tom is a very science guy. He doesn't really meditate, but he says, Vishen, I do this thing where I just sit still and I relax. I call it thinkitation. And so many great ideas come to me through thinkitation. And I said, Tom, that's basically meditation. Just freaking admit it. You meditate. Okay? But that's what we're talking about here. I get so many of my greatest ideas when I'm sitting in silence. Now, silence doesn't mean journaling or gratitude. It literally means silence. You stay quiet, you focus on your breath, and you just let your mind calm down. Let's try it for a moment. Close your eyes and see if you can do 1 minute of silence without asking, are we done yet? Focus on your breath. Just bring yourself gently back to your breath. Every time a thought enters your head, just push it away. You can open your eyes. That was silence. How many of you have found it easy? How many of you have found it really tough? It only takes about a minute, but you will notice just doing this for a minute, and you can try various styles. Box breathing is something that people recommend. You can try various styles. Just getting into your center for a minute can make a massive impact in your life. Question I want you to answer is this: how often do you make room for silence? Whether it's meditation or thinkitation, or just focusing on your breath or prayer. How often do you give the universe a chance to whisper to you? Perhaps this is why over 20,000 studies show that people who meditate, not only are they generally more successful in life, but they live longer, they have greater heart health, they have greater skin, they heal faster from disease, they have greater social ability, greater emotional control. Over 15,000 studies on meditation. How often do you make room for silence? So how would you reflect this on Thursday? Maybe do a 20-minute meditation before stepping into Mind Valley U. To step into that silence. Maybe attend an embodiment workshop. There are so many incredible workshops happening. See how you show up in the day, how that changes on Thursday. Go a little bit deeper in whatever is your silent practice, and then see what emerges. So, kind folks love stillness, not dramatic reactions. This brings us to the N, non-attachment. Non-attachment sits very much close to faith and knowing. It is the idea that you can have goals, but your happiness is not tied to your goals. Your happiness comes before you achieve it. Non-attachment is kind of a cool idea. It is the confident state of talking to the universe. Listen, universe, I want this or that, but listen, if it doesn't happen, I don't care, I'm awesome anyway. There's a story about this and Steve Jobs. So Steve Jobs founded the company that became the world's first $1 trillion company. But what many people don't know is Steve Jobs went through one of the most brutal betrayals in business history. He hired John Scully from PepsiCo to become the CEO of Apple. And so the CEO joins his company in the mid-80s and then kicks him out. He was in his 20s. Imagine being kicked out of your company. He sold all his Apple shares except one share. Imagine that. He built Apple and was kicked out. But he also said this: the heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again. He chose not to carry that hurt, not to carry that anger. He went on to found his next company, Next. It was literally called Next. And then he went on to found another company, a little animation startup company called Pixar. And then he was invited back to Apple because Apple acquired the operating system from Next. And when he came back to Apple, he rose to become CEO again in 1997. Apple went from a tiny little company to the first trillion-dollar company in the world. But Steve created space for that by not being attached to being kicked out. He didn't hate Apple. He didn't have any agenda. He accepted it and became a beginner again. Steve Jobs' family, after he died, went on because Disney acquired Pixar. The Jobs family is now the largest shareholder in Disney. And of course, through Apple, he got tons of shares when he stepped back as a CEO in 1997. My question to you is, what are you gripping so tightly that it's blocking the flow of grace into your life? What are you holding on so tightly? Is it a business that you just aren't inspired by anymore? Is it a relationship that you just aren't inspired by anymore? Is it some bullshit goal that you took on from somewhere else? What are you holding on to so tightly? And what would it feel like to just release? That is non-attachment. But non-attachment also applies to the goals which you are setting for yourself. As Rouse said, the greatest advice you can give an MBA is remember that everything in life is nothing more than a learning opportunity. Your business is nothing more than the greatest vehicle for your personal growth. If your business becomes $1 billion, doesn't matter. If your business fails, doesn't matter. The question is, did you grow? When you view life like that, success will never go to your ego. Failure will never shake your confidence. That is non-attachment. What I want you to write down is, what are you gripping so tightly that it's blocking the flow of grace in your life? Close your eyes or journal. Friday will be the day to practice non-attachment. What I want you to think about this Friday is, what goal can you remove from your goal list? What are you falsely chasing? What goal is really a rule or a bullshit rule that you took on from the culturescape? From that giant web of human rituals, beliefs, ideas that were not necessarily your own? What can you release? On Friday, I want you to ask yourself the question, am I really trying to force something into my life? And does it really matter? When you step into non-attachment, it doesn't mean you lose your knowing. You know what you're good at. Non-attachment is to the goals. But it does create room for faith, because you get to step into trust. Now, this brings us to the practice for Saturday, the sixth state. Kind folks love stillness, not dramatic deed. And that state is devotion. Devotion is dedication to doing the hard things, even if you don't always enjoy them. The beautiful thing about these 7 states is you can look at many different personal growth traditions and ideas, and you will find them, whether it's the Torah or the Quran or the Bible. You will see these patterns, even in Napoleon Hill's classic work, Think and Grow Rich. For example, Napoleon Hill, before he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich, he interviewed all the most powerful men. Back then it was only men, it was the 1910s and 1920s, like Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, and he wrote a couple of things he noticed about these men. So one of the things he wrote is that they are really dedicated to their goals. But he also wrote that all of these men actually make space to listen to what he called vibes, intuition. He used the word vibes to represent intuition. In short, these men were dedicated, they were focused, but they also were creating space for silence. John D. Rockefeller, who became the richest man in the world, Standard Oil, he wrote a poem at the age of 83, said something along the lines of, "My life is work and play, one long happy holiday, full of work, full of play, and God was good to me every day." That doesn't sound like the hustle culture that we think about so often. Yet that man was the wealthiest man who ever lived, second wealthiest after Mansa Musa. Wealthier by some standards than Elon Musk is today. Devotion. Napoleon Hill said, all of these men, all of these great thinkers, they took baby steps. Even if they didn't know if they were moving in the right direction, they took baby steps, listened to vibes, and the universe would correct them. So he wrote about it in the language of that time. So what do we mean by devotion? Devotion is devotion to a path, an ideal, a value, even devotion to your family. The 2 men in this picture, that's Al Capone, the 1920s gangster. And by the way, it is a damn good idea to dress like him for the party next Saturday, okay? Next to him is Easy Eddie. Easy Eddie was Al Capone's fixer. So Al Capone was the classic mafioso. And back in Chicago in the 1920s, this man ran everything. He was the gangster that has been immortalized in over a dozen movies. He was such an evil, cruel man that there was a time he was eating in a restaurant. Someone said something unkind about him, so he grabs a baseball bat and beats this man to death. And no one in the restaurant dared call the police or raise their voice because he was Al Capone. But the reason he could do that was because of Easy Eddie. Easy Eddie was his lawyer, his close friend, and his fixer. Easy Eddie would grease the police. Easy Eddie would pay off the politicians. Easy Eddie ensured that Al Capone could do all the evil he did and get away. But then, Easy Eddie became a father. And here's where the story gets interesting. Easy Eddie had a son. And as the son was growing up, the son noticed that his dad had a lot of money. So the son would ask Easy Eddie, "Dad, where's the money coming from?" And Easy Eddie would lie. And the son got older, and the son would ask, "Dad, where's the money coming from?" And Easy Eddie would lie again. And finally, as the son was getting older, Easy Eddie couldn't maintain the lies. And he decided that he wanted to be a good father to his son. He wanted to be a devoted dad, and that meant setting a good example, telling the truth, not lying. So he goes to the government and he says, "I will testify. I will help you put Al Capone behind bars." And Easy Eddie knew what this meant. It meant that there was now a death warrant on his name. He testified. Al Capone was arrested for tax fraud. Easy Eddie provided the evidence. And sure enough, as Easy Eddie knew, 3 months later, he was gunned down by Capone's cronies. That was devotion. And there's a second story about devotion. Now we go back to 1942. And there's this guy called Butch O'Hare. So Butch is a naval pilot and, an Air Force pilot. And he's on this giant American cruiser in the Pacific Ocean during World War II. And he's making his rounds. Now his cruiser holds about 3,500 American soldiers and crew. And as he's circling, he sees Japanese planes, a force of 9 Japanese bombers heading towards the cruiser, and he knew what's going to happen next. 9 bombers, that cruiser was going to be bombed. All his friends, 3,500 American soldiers, were about to perish. He doesn't have time to go back. He only has limited bullets. He has to do everything he can to take down those 9 Japanese planes. So he starts firing. He shoots down a plane, shoots down a second plane. Then he runs out of bullets. There are still 7 planes in the air. So what does he do? He takes his plane and he goes and he starts ramming the other planes. He starts to hit them at the... This is super risky. But he ends up taking down another 3 planes. 5 Japanese fighter pilots go down. 5 Japanese planes crash into the ocean. The other 4 are so scared of Easy Eddie, they flee. He lands back safely on the ship, saving the day, saving 3,500 people. He becomes America's first fighting ace. When you see the movie Top Gun, this was the real Top Gun, right? This was the guy who inspired Tom Cruise and everyone else. This was the first fighting ace. He helped inspire American soldiers, British soldiers, Allied forces all around the world to eventually defeat the Nazis, defeat the Japanese Empire under Hirohito. When you land in Chicago O'Hare Airport isn't named after a Chicago mayor. It isn't named after a president. It's named after Butch O'Hare, the fighter pilot. Butch died in 1943 on a night raid. His plane was shot down. Nobody knows where his body lies. But O'Hare Airport is named after this boy from Chicago who became the first fighter pilot. That is devotion. Devotion to his team, devotion to his country. Now here's where the story gets interesting. Butch O'Hare was Easy Eddie's son. Easy Eddie, the man who helped jail Al Capone, to be a good example to his son went on to help America win the war. Both men gave their life for their country. That is devotion. Devotion ripples down past generation lines. Who you show up as a mother, as a father, will ripple down to your children. Devotion is the 6th state. My question to you is, what is your soul devoted to? And does your calendar reflect that? Are you devoted to being the best parent you can be? Are you devoted to honing your skills and getting your newest book out? Are you devoted to building the company? We think devotion is about the legacy that we leave behind, and we think of these legacies as companies, as money, as assets. But what if devotion is also devotion to ensuring that when you die, the people who loved you most have a warm feeling in their heart when they think about you? What if we can be devoted to that? So I want you to write down, what is your soul devoted to? And does your calendar reflect that? So my son's sitting in the audience, Hayden, and Hayden's about to turn 18. And I was in a fight recently, and I watched this movie, and there was a line from this movie that literally made me cry. And the line was, 85% of the time we spend with our children is before they turn 18. Let that sink in. So knowing that my son is going to turn 18 and go off to university, I told Hayden, this year, you're my number 1 devotion. So recently, Hayden wanted to go, do a road trip across the US and look at college campuses, and I took 2 weeks off work, even though I was super busy. It was the busiest launch in Mind Valley history, but my devotion is such. So we went and we spent 2 weeks together in the United States. That's how I am devoted to as a parent. What is your devotion? I want you to reflect on that on Saturday. Saturday's a free day. We'll have a couple of classes, but Saturday you will have a lot more free time. What is that thing that you can be devoted to? Is it someone you need to call? Is it a project you finally need to take those baby steps on? Is it a particular health protocol that you've been putting off? And this brings us to the final state, receptivity. Receptivity is all about Sunday. So, kind folks love stillness, not dramatic reactions. Knowing you know who you are. Faith, love, silence, non-attachment, devotion. We now come to receptivity. Receptivity means this. It means you do not chase, you attract. But to truly attract, you got to remove every barrier in your soul that says you don't deserve it. And these bullshit ideas come from how we grew up, the words we hear, teachers who said, oh my God, I can't believe you don't get it. Parents who maybe punished us, not knowing a better way to parent. How can you remove every barrier towards receiving? In the West, there's a lot of judgment on ideas like money. And I learned when I went to Dubai recently that in certain cultures, there is no judgment towards money. So I want to tell you a story. I'm in Dubai and I'm speaking at an event. And at the end of the event, I go backstage just to decompress. And this sheikh, this is a mid-journey AI version of him. This guy comes up and he looks like a cross between a rapper and a sheikh. He's got like all of this bling, all of these gold chains. He's wearing like the coolest sunglasses, gold watch, and carrying a blue Louis Vuitton bag. And he comes and he kind of stands like this, and then he starts telling me, Habibi, I really loved your speech. What you are using is very good. I was very inspired by your speech. And so we started talking, and I'm so exhausted, and I don't want to get into another conversation. I just wanted to like eat and get out of there because I was exhausted after coming off stage. And this guy, I don't know, I just didn't gel with him. Like he seemed too flashy. I judge money sometimes wrongly, but I did. Gold chains, I mean, who wears that? What was he trying to prove? And then I said, that's a really nice bag. And he goes, yes, this is my bag I carry. And I said, what's in it? And he goes, 250,000 US dollars. So I said, what? And he opens it and he shows me it's cash. 250,000 US dollars worth of cash. Okay? So I say, drugs? And he goes, no. I believe in the flow of money. When I carry this, the universe blesses me. This is my energy of abundance. I carry this so that wherever I go, I know that Allah and the universe is giving to me. I go into a restaurant. I like the restaurant. I know I can just buy the restaurant. Now, this guy was really successful, okay? His Instagram is Aquaman. He builds some of the greatest water parks in the world, but a really, really good, solid guy. But as I started talking to him, I realized my own judgments towards wealth. There's nothing wrong with wearing flashy gold chains. There's nothing wrong with carrying around $250,000 in a blue bag. I mean, don't do it in London, but you can do it in Dubai, which is a super safe city. But then, the sheikh told me this. I asked him, what's your secret to your success? He goes, oh, I give away 20% of everything I earn every month to villages in Africa to build schools and wells. And he says, and whatever I give away, it come back to me tenfold. He explained that this is zakat. It's one of the 4 pillars of Islam. In Islam, you give away 2.5% at a base to the poor. And this guy, he gives away 20%. I was so touched by that, I started applying zakat. So now I give away 10% of whatever's my income to various causes. But this man taught me a lesson. I had a money block. I was not fully receiving, which is why I judged him. But he had nailed it. And by the way, you want to get into the ability to receive money without judgment, practice zakat. Give a portion away. Doesn't matter who you give it away to, just give it away. Not for show, not to post on Instagram, but just because you can. Because it's flowing through you in abundance. Another way to practice this idea of receptivity, to understand that you fully deserve, is to understand the drama in your own head. In the Western world, especially in America, there is an idea that you have to work hard to be a successful entrepreneur. It's almost as if it's easy, we cheat it somehow. So I was working with one of my spiritual teachers, an American doctor by the name of Barry Morgan. And he would call me up every now and then, and we would do like a little coaching call. And one day Barry says, Vishen, you are addicted to challenges. And I go, Barry, what are you talking about? And he goes, every time I talk to you, you talk about another challenge in business and then how you solved it and how you're very proud of yourself for solving the challenge. But what if you just stopped having challenges in the first place? So I said, Barry, what do you mean? He goes, Vishen, when I studied Chinese spirituality, one of the things I learned is that to be spiritual means that you've learned to make life easy. So I want you to get over your addiction to challenges. I want you to repeat this mantra every morning when you meditate. Why do I solve all problems that come my way in a fun and easy way? And that was a wake-up call. Why do I solve every problem that comes my way in a fun and easy way? I got rid of my challenge addiction. Yeah, some problems would still come. I would solve it in a fun way rather than grind and push and then celebrate. Why have challenges? So now I choose to build businesses with no challenge. I just want everything to be easy. And it is. It literally is. I showed up yesterday. My team runs all of this. I just get on stage and everything I do in life right now, I just do it in a fun and easy way. So what problem are you addicted to? Receiving means to get your head out of your ass and to stop being addicted to these problems. Whether it is, I got to work hard for money, or I got to deal with all of this guilt for having money. What can you make easy in your life? What do you deserve? And here's how I want you to do it on Sunday. Treat yourself to a massage. If someone offers to buy you coffee, don't haggle over the bill. Don't be Indian that way. Just accept it. I always have this problem with my Indian family. My cousin Simran, she's looking at me like she always does this. Just accept it. When people pay you a compliment, don't say, oh, it's nothing. Oh, my aunt brought me that dress. She has such good taste. Just accept it like the king or queen that you are. I want you to step into king mode, queen mode on Sunday. And the journal prompt is this. What blessings or love have I been rejecting because I didn't believe I was worthy of ease? I want you to remember, you are not here to chase your destiny. You are here to become the frequency that your destiny recognizes. And to do that, you step into the 7 sacred states. Can you guys repeat after me? Kind folks, okay, we're going to do it this way because you guys suck at this, okay? Every time I drop my hand, you're going to say the first word. Perfect. Okay, now, so that's the way to remember it. Now let's talk about the 7 states. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Thank you. I'd like to leave you with that. And one more thing. One of the practices I do is that I actually have a pendant that represents every state. After I practice this for several Mondays to Sundays, I wear the pendant. This one, for example, you'll see if you can't see it obviously, but it has arrows pointing up and down. This is my non-attachment pendant. So I actually went out and I bought pendants for each state. They help me embody the state. We spoke about symbolism. We spoke about the Christ cross. We spoke about the earth flag. Symbolism matters. So to fully help me step into these states, I have a compass, a ring, okay, that reminds me of knowingness, because compasses give you direction. This one represents non-attachment, arrows pointing in both directions, meaning win or lose, I accept. One more thing that I had my students do in the Manifesting Mastery class is actually create an altar in their home. And you put several objects in this altar to remind you of these states. And on a given day, you take the right object and you put it on your work desk. So for example, knowingness might be a compass. I have an antique compass. And then faith might be a feather symbolizing angel wings, that we are guided by something mysterious. Love for me, it's a quartz heart. It could be anything that symbolizes love. Silence to me is a polished river stone representing the stillness of nature. And then non-attachment. Non-attachment to me is it's a rose, but it's like a rose coated in gold. It represents the fact that flowers wilt and die. You cannot be attached to flowers when someone gives it to you. And then there is devotion. It's a little tiny book. It's about this small. And devotion simply represents my work, study, learning. And finally, receiving is a little bowl just to represent receiving the gifts of the universe. So you can also create an altar. And to help myself embody the right state, I take the object from the altar and I just put it on my work desk on the day in which I want to embody the state. If you do this practice, guys, this is what is going to happen by the end of week 1 and week 2. You will start feeling yourself at a different level. You will start showing up differently. Your confidence will go through the roof. You will actually be more generous with others. You will feel less stressed. You will feel better in your own skin. You will become a better entrepreneur. You'll become a person that's more attractive, more charismatic, because we love people who know who they are, who are so firm in their values. But this is available to all of us. All you have to do is tap into what is already there. Knowingness, faith, love, silence, non-attachment, devotion, and finally, knowing that you're an incredible human being and deserve everything you seek. Thank you.